Hi guys, welcome to the RC.
The show that's not about redactive consequences.
We're Rachel and Connor.
So like we said last week, this week we are going to be talking about communication. Communication is so important in a relationship because it is pretty much the stronghold of what keeps a relationship. It's the flex tape of relationships.
Essentially, if you don't have really good communication between yourselves and about your relationship, it won't last very long because there will be this disconnect and you won't be able to really grow and develop in the way that you're supposed to in a relationship. Now, there's a couple of things that we're gonna talk about communication. The first thing we're going to talk about is just kind of like why it's important. The second thing we'll talk about is kind of the expectations that you should set and the standards that you need to talk about with your partner about communication. And the third is going to be the different types of communication that can work in different settings. So the first thing we're going to talk about is why communication is really important. I know specifically for us, communication is really important because we're both really opinionated people with a lot of different thoughts and ideas and opinions. And if we didn't communicate those, we would become at odds a little bit. There would be certain spots or situations where I would be thinking something and he would be thinking something, and if we didn't tell each other what we were thinking, it would probably like backfire on us really bad.
So for example, when we first started dating, one of the concrete things we had is she made it very clear that if she texted me, I needed to text her back as soon as possible. I couldn't just leave her on read or just not answer, because that was just an important thing that she had. I don't know why she wanted that, but honestly, sometimes it doesn't matter why someone wants that. It's just, this is how they ask you to treat them, and if you're in a relationship, you kind of have to follow that, otherwise it's not a good relationship.
Yeah, and communication is also really important because, like, for him, he has a lot of ideas and a lot of creative moments and a lot of things that he wants to do, and I, like, don't always know those things because I'm from a completely different area than he is. And so we both have different ideas and different ways that we kind of react to things and the way that we kind of live our lives. And so we need to be open about that and kind of come to a consensus about how we're gonna make everything work. And yeah, so there's kind of a lot that can go into that there.
So when you're first starting dating, or you can even do this if you've been like a year into a relationship, it's so important to make sure you guys are on the same page with it. How do you communicate your communication expectations? That should go on a t-shirt.
So essentially what that means is, like, you need to talk to each other about the different ways that you communicate with somebody and kind of be able to understand each other's way of speaking, way of communicating. For me specifically, there's a lot of times where if something's really bothering me, I'll write it down. I'm a writer, I'm an English person. Writing is kind of, and journaling especially, is how I kind of let out all of the thoughts that are in my head and all of the feelings I have. And sometimes there are moments where there's frustration or there's a miscommunication within the relationship itself. And so then I feel like I can't always tell him, and I think that's because of the way that my life was before this. There was a lot of times where with friends I didn't feel like I could be completely open and completely honest with people, and so I went to journaling and keeping a diary and all that stuff. With him, sometimes I share that stuff with him because that's my way of communicating, hey, this was a moment when I was really frustrated and I can't find the words in person to get my thoughts and my feelings across. We realized, hey, here's a moment of communication that works for one of us and the other person needs to kind of learn to work with it too. I know, like with him, he likes to use Facebook Messenger a lot and I prefer texting, but I use almost exclusively Facebook Messenger with him because that's just the platform like he uses, and that's kind of the platform we used even right before we started dating. Like, we were just kind of friends. Yeah. That was the platform we always used.
If Facebook goes down, we're screwed. Another important part of something she touched on is learning each other's love languages, and more importantly than that, learning each other's apology languages. Mm-hmm. You can actually, it's on the same, if you don't know love languages, Google it. It's like 4 languages.
We'll put the
links in the description. And then there's really another link that I'm going to put down there that is the apology test. Is on the same site. Basically, I didn't even know this existed, but we took this right when we first started dating. Yeah. It was really, really important because everybody wants someone to apologize differently to them. So for example, like, I like it when somebody just says, hey, I screwed up, I'm gonna try, like, I'm just gonna try to get better. Mm-hmm. Like, if you try to give excuse or anything, I don't care. Let's just say you messed up, say you'll do better, we move on, we're good.
And so being able to communicate.
Wait, do you just have apology language?
No. You just want people to, like...
Oh, to move on.
To move on. Yeah. I want there to be a moment of redemption.
Gotcha. See, and these are things like I didn't know, so we communicated this question that we have.
Another really important part of communication that I think is always really good to touch on is that having really open communication and understanding kind of how each person wants that communication to go. We both are really good about responding right away to each other on texts and messages. I mean, there are certain phrases, like I'll be like, hey, you know, if I'm on a film shoot and I know that he's playing video games or he's editing videos or he's doing homework, I might say, hey, film shoot's going really well, I'm at this and this point, and he'll be like, great, and he might ask a question and I might not answer for an hour because I might have to go back on set and keep shooting. And he understands that like that's an okay thing because we've communicated, hey, I'm gonna be on set. I won't be able to be reached during this time.
And that's really the biggest part of communication is clarification and understanding of expectations. Like, if you have a question, don't hesitate to ask, because if you don't ask, then it will either A, fester up inside of you and become really bad, or B, you won't understand what's going on and you both are just gonna have huge confusion. In the words from the film Cool Hand Luke,
what we've got here is failure to communicate.
I think one last thing that we can really touch on with communication is just in general, like, encourage it. There are going to be a lot of days where you're just sitting around having a conversation. You're not doing anything. You don't have to always be doing something in a relationship. You don't always have to be going to Broadway productions or going to movies or going to the beach or doing, you know, XYZ different kinds of things. Sometimes you might just be sitting somewhere and just talking. And I think that that's really important, even if that communication isn't, oh, this thing is in my heart and it's bothering me. Like, maybe it's just like, hey, I want to get to know more about this thing that you've talked about once. Or
so like the other day we were at Denny's, I think.
We were at Denny's.
We wanted a date to Denny's because I am poor.
It was cute. I love Denny's.
And she just started asking me questions about League of Legends, this video game that I've been playing with some friends, and it meant a lot because at least, even though I know that she really doesn't care.
I don't know nothing about video games.
It was at least her trying to make an effort to communicate about something that was important to me.
And he does the same thing. Like, I've always had a hard time. Like, I get really excited about things and so I share them really in depth. And then with other things, I'm very reclusive because they matter a lot. And one of those things in particular is my writing. I want to be a writer. I love writing stories. And I've got a couple of stories that I'm writing right now. And one of the really, really hard parts is I've never actually shared a lot of my stories with people before. But with him, he really encourages me to like talk about them and to share the things that I get really excited about because he knows how much it means to me and he knows how passionate I get about it. And just like being able to talk about something that matters so much to you that maybe you don't get to share with other people, I think is a really beautiful gift in being in a really strong Catholic relationship.
So in summation, communication is important both in the big realm where you're trying to communicate big important things, but also just in the day-to-day. Talk. You're in a relationship, you might as well talk. That's it. It's super simple, guys.
We're so glad that you guys tuned in. Don't forget to subscribe. There's a little red button down there, and then there's a little notification bell, so you'll get a little notification every time we post. We post on Tuesdays at the same time that we post on Instagram.
And what's our Instagram page, Rachel?
Our Instagram is the RC Catholics, so you can go and follow that, and you'll see a post every time that we upload a video.
Every time.
Every post also includes a short blog written. It can be about what the video is about. It might be about something completely different. They're just there to communicate our feelings and our thoughts with you guys.
Communication, it's important.
Exactly. Thank you so much for joining our crew and for tuning in today. Feel free to comment below any topics or things that you think we should discuss or anything you want us to go more into detail with. As always, thank you so much for tuning in today.
And keep it real.